Hi everyone. Welcome to week 4, I think. I am losing track of the days. Also, I want you to notice how each week my hair becomes crazier and crazier because I cannot get it cut or dyed. So, enjoy. Okay, just some things before we begin our reading lesson today. Um, I sent you all an email with some answers to some common questions I have been getting. Um, Last week was like difficult for everybody. We are all trying to learn how to do this. But this week, I need you all to wait till 3:30, 4 o'clock for your lessons to come up on announcements in FOL. When you look at those lessons, that is everything you must do on that day, including the homework. So this week, I am no longer correcting any homework that is not on time. So please check the calendar. Please check the quizzes and the submission folders where I have the time area. Usually you will have 24 hours to complete your daily homework, and then quizzes and assignments will be a little bit longer. Okay, so as far as assignments, I see that everyone did their body paragraph assignment. Congratulations. Now, usually it takes me about a week to correct everybody's assignment, so please be patient. Just like you, I am trying to work and live at home and be a mother, and it's really, really difficult. So I will try to get every assignment back to you before the next assignment. So this week, that means I will try to have your grades to you on Thursday. Okay. So don't email me about when you will do your grades. And if your homework is late, your homework is late. That is it. I am not accepting any more late homework. Everyone good? Okay, let's begin. So today is Tuesday, so that means we are doing our reading homework. Today you will need for this, you will need your reading textbook. You will also need a notebook and a pen and maybe your phone for the dictionary. So I am going to pause while you get these things. So pause the video and get everything you need for this lesson. Okay, cool. So here we are. Unit 1, reading 4, and I think it's called ethical reporting. So before we begin, we need to discuss the meaning of a very important key word in this lesson, and that is ethics, which is the noun form, and ethical, which is the adjective form. So please repeat after me: ethics and ethical. And so I think rather than trying to explain this very complicated word, I will ask you to look it up in your dictionary. Please look up the noun form, and then I think they will probably tell you about the adjective form, but please look up the noun form of the word ethics in your dictionary. So pause the video and look up the word ethics. Okay, so as you can see, ethics is a fairly complicated idea. So when you are in lower levels, we teach you that nouns are people, places, or things. But there's one more category, and that is ideas. Usually we have the noun form for big ideas, and that can include religion, like religious ideas. Like we can say Islam is a noun, and that's a really big concept of what is the religion of Islam. We can also say political ideas like communism. Communism is a political theory. It's a big political idea in its noun form. Also, words like freedom and democracy, these are all nouns and they are like big complex ideas. And usually with all of those big complex ideas, we all have a personal understanding of what this means. Now, ethics is basically the study of what is right and what is wrong. When I did my psychology master's degree, we learned a lot about ethics because if you are doing experiments with human beings, you have to treat them well and make sure that you are not doing any like psychological or physical damage to them during your study. And so that is like the ethics of science, like what is right and what is wrong. So ethics, what is right and what is wrong, that's the noun, but often we see the word ethical, the adjective form, in a compound with some different nouns. So here I gave you some common examples. For example, ethical meat, ethical coffee, ethical clothes, ethical news. So we know what all of these nouns mean, but how does the word ethical change their meaning? So right now in your notebook, I want you to pause the video and see if you can think about what these things mean. Like, what is an example of ethical meat or ethical coffee? Like, why would some coffee be ethical coffee and some coffee be unethical? And that's the next thing. There is a negative to this word. So ethical is positive and unethical is the negative form of the noun. So why would some coffee be ethical and some coffee be unethical? So pause and take a minute to think about this. Okay. Hopefully you gave it a little bit of thought. Now I'm going to talk about what these things mean using some examples. Okay. So, some people are vegetarians, meaning they do not eat meat because they think eating meat is unethical, meaning they think it is wrong, morally wrong to eat an animal because an animal is a living creature, a living being, and that it's incorrect for us to eat other living beings. Okay, so lots of people think that eating meat in general is unethical. Now, because of this, there are some farmers who the way that they raise their meat, their animals, is they say that it is ethical, meaning instead of teeny tiny small cages for each animal, their animals are allowed to walk around outside and eat grass and be in the sunshine and live kind of happy animal life before they are killed and we eat them. So some people only buy what's called ethical meat, meaning that they know that the animals had happy lives. Are you a person who cares about whether your meat is ethical or unethical, or maybe you don't care at all? I kind of don't care. I'll eat anything. Okay. We all know that I am crazy for food. Okay. So coffee is another important example. I'm drinking some coffee right now. Now, some of you are from countries where coffee is grown, and I want you to think about the people who pick and farm the coffee. What kind of life do they live? Usually around the world, coffee is called a cash crop, meaning it is very, very, very cheap or inexpensive to produce. But we pay a lot of money for it on this side. Like I used to, before the quarantine, I went to Starbucks and every day would pay $6 for a coffee, which seems crazy now. But so the farmers and the people who pick the coffee and the people who process the coffee generally do not get paid almost any money. Like they are so, so, so poor. So some places like Starbucks sometimes sell ethical coffee where they pay the farmers and they pay the people who pick the coffee like enough money to live a comfortable life. And so that is ethical coffee. There's a lot of food that you can buy like ethical options for. Bananas, sugar, tea. Yeah, it's like you can look on the package and sometimes they will say this food is ethically produced. Okay. So speaking of ethical production, let's move on to ethical clothes. So ethical clothes, like again, many of you come from countries where there are big factories that make a lot of clothing, and they make a lot of clothing for very, very cheap. And the way they make cheap clothing is they do not pay the workers very much money. There's a lot of companies who have gotten in trouble for doing this. Like Apple is one. Sorry, I don't know. I just showed you the back of my phone. Apple is a company who has been criticized for doing this. Nike running shoes, The Gap, like they all have been accused of like taking their factories to countries where they do not have to pay their workers like almost any money. So there are some clothing lines that produce ethical clothing, meaning they make sure that the people who make their clothing are paid enough money and have comfortable working conditions, meaning they work like normal work hours, they get to have breaks, they go to the bathroom, they get paid enough money. Okay. So if we understand ethical meat, ethical coffee, ethical clothes, what does ethical news or ethical reporting the news? Reporting the news mean? So maybe you now, if you understand this, you have a better idea about this. So now I'm going to ask you to do a quick exercise in your book before we read. It is on page 32. So please turn to page 32 in, where am I doing? Page 32 in your textbook. And then you will see at the top it says connecting to the topic. And I want you to look here where it says A, B, C, D, and E. So this is an exercise that you can do alone, or if you are living with somebody else who is also learning English, you can take this opportunity to have a discussion with them. But basically, they want you to look at these situations, and I want you to decide whether it is ethical reporting or unethical reporting and why. So take this minute. If you are alone, make a few notes in your book or in your notebook, and I'll see you in about 5 minutes. Pause. Okay, so let's take a look at these examples. A, pretending to be someone else in order to find out information for the story. In Canada, this is illegal, so it is considered to be highly unethical. Okay. B, writing facts and information that is not true. In Canada, you can lose your job as a reporter for reporting things that are untrue, that are not reported as an opinion. Like sometimes people write their opinions in the newspaper, but this is saying something is a fact and then it is not a fact. Okay. C, printing or saying negative things about a person if those things are true. Generally, this is okay if they're factual. Here in Canada, we try to have news that is, we say, balanced, meaning if this person has a good thing to say about the situation, we will try and find a person who has the opposite opinion, just so you have both opinions. But some people do bad things and we have to report about them. So this one I think is ethical. Okay. D, secretly putting microphones in people's homes to hear what they say and then reporting their conversations. Okay, this is highly illegal. And actually, when I lived in England, a very famous newspaper got in big trouble for doing this. They were secretly recording the phone conversations of famous politicians, of famous actors, and they were publishing news about it, and these people did not know where the paper was getting this information. Anyway, the police came, they had to go to court, they had to pay a lot of money, some people went to jail. So this is highly unethical. Okay. Now, E is interesting because it's something that a lot of us do with our phones all the time. Taking photos of people in public without asking them and then printing the photos in a newspaper. People have different opinions about this, but generally if your information or your photo is in a newspaper here, you must give permission, meaning you have to say that it is okay. And some people say even taking photos of strangers with your phone in the street and posting them on social media is unethical because you did not get the permission or the consent of the person in the photo. Okay, cool. So this maybe hopefully gives you some good idea about ethics in the news. Now, I think that we are prepared to read our article. So the article I want you to read today is called Ethical Reporting. It is on page 33 to 35. Okay, but before we start, we are going to preview. Now, if you remember our reading skills, there is previewing, predicting, skimming, scanning, and then deep reading. And we've been practicing a lot of skimming skills, like looking for the main idea really quickly in a paragraph. But here, I just want you to take a look at the pages of this article. So if we look at the front page, we see nothing. This would probably be a good opportunity for you to skim by reading the first sentence in each paragraph to just get a general idea of the main idea. But if we look at these two pictures in the next pages, one, we see here a certain kind of newspaper. This newspaper is generally called a tabloid. And tabloid newspapers are famous for printing incorrect and like crazy news about people. Lots of news about celebrities, lots of news about scandals. They tend to be very cheap newspapers. Okay, so here we have an example of a tabloid newspaper called News of the World. Okay. And here we have a picture of a very famous celebrity. Her name is Britney Spears, and she is getting into her car, but she is surrounded by reporters. Usually the reporters that surround her are reporters that work for this kind of newspaper. And this is maybe another question you can ask while you are reading, which is, do you think the way that reporters follow celebrities is ethical or unethical? Some people are like, it is their job. This is what their job is. And some people said famous people should have the same rights to privacy as other people. So you can think about what you believe about that question. Okay. So we have a tabloid, we have a celebrity. So we know in this reading, we can now predict that we're probably going to be talking about different ethical problems in reporting and what happens in them. Okay, So your homework for tonight is to read page 33, 35, and then I want you to do the exercises on page 36 to 39. I will be putting this in the calendar, and I will be printing the answers to this tomorrow afternoon in the content of FOL under week 4 reading. So tomorrow you'll have the answers, so please do this homework tonight. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this reading lesson. I hope you learned some new vocabulary and new terms. I just want to remind you that the vocabulary that you are learning in your readings is also your responsibility to continue to learn and understand. Okay. Great work, everybody. I'm going to follow this video with a grammar lesson today. So do your homework tonight, and I will see you in about 5 minutes when we will learn about the past continuous. Okay. Mwah! Have a good one.